Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gary Workman, and I would like to share a story with you today. You may relate to this story, being that you're in the effective speech course. This is my story on public speaking. When I was 19 years of age, I worked for a very large corporation. I was a hard worker, very diligent, to make sure the tasks that needed to be completed were accomplished. I learned many of the company's policies and procedures, in so much that the company asked me to teach those policies and procedures in front of a very large group of fellow co-workers. On the day that I needed to give my very first speech in front of a group, I stood at the podium. I knew the lessons that needed to be taught. I knew the policies. I knew the procedures. I was prepared for the speaking. But what I was not prepared for was the nervousness that I felt, the butterflies that were in my stomach, the sickness that I felt when I stood in front of a group for the very first time. There was something inside of me telling me that I was not a very effective speaker, and that those that I was speaking to would not accept the lessons that I had to be taught. Yet somehow I battled through that very first speaking engagement. I would not say that it was my most effective speech. I would not even say that I enjoyed giving that speech. But what I would say is that was the first of many speeches that I would be fortunate to share with other groups. Shortly thereafter, I had joined a small community church, and they heard that I was giving speeches to employee groups. So they asked me to share a sermon, to share lessons that had been taught to me, to try to help others, to share a message. When I stood at that podium for the very first time in front of a church congregation, I felt nervous. I felt the butterflies. But yet I had overcome that fear of public speaking. By the first speech that I had gave, all that dread, all that fear had left. And all I knew is that I wanted to communicate a message that I was taught. The more I spoke in front of congregations, the more speeches that I had given, I learned that public speaking is not just me sharing information with a group. I also learned that many of times after I give a speaking occasion, the group starts asking me questions, that they reflect on what I was speaking about. And even when there's opposition to my view or what I am speaking about, it gives me the opportunity to speak with other groups and to come to an agreement on what needed to be done. I have learned to overcome those fears, that doubt within me about being an effective speaker. Yet I signed up for the effective speech course. That's only because I want to become a better speaker. I want to learn to effectively communicate a message. As of today, I've given hundreds of speeches. I've talked to many of crowds. And I still have that nervousness. Folks, the moral of my story is that if you do not give your first speech, if you do not overcome those fears and those doubts, you possibly could be missing out on one of the biggest opportunities that you may ever receive in your lifetime. Have a good day.